Hello and welcome back to my channel, Emily's Creative Life. Today is day 9 of my 2020 Valentine card series. I have a fun and dimensional card to share with you today, so let's get into it. I am starting out with a die set here by Momenta. I'm using the XOXO die in that set, and I will be die cutting that from a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of Cougar cardstock. I'm just cutting it into smaller strips and die cutting as many of those as I can out of that piece of cardstock. I didn't do a bigger piece of cardstock because I knew that however many I could get out of this, I would be able to fit on the background of my card. And then here I'm using some E6000 spray adhesive, and I will spray that on the back of each of these little die cuts and then adhering them onto my card base, as you can see on the right hand side there. I'm using my EK Tools tweezers to place that down where I want them, and they're kind of going at a diagonal. And you can also see that I have a new work surface here. I wasn't too thrilled with the way that the other one, the way the light reflected off of it in my videos and how small it made the work area feel. But here I'm using a stamp set by Simon Says Stamp, the Bold Flowers set, and I'm using all the flower images from that set and using Hero Art's Pool, Butterbar, Soft Cantaloupe, Ultra Pink, and Soft Purple inks to ink those flowers up, and then I will be using my coordinating dies later to die cut them out. I stamped each of these down twice so that I would get a better coverage on them. I wanted them to be a little bit darker. And here I've got the leaves from that stamp set that I have picked up with the lid of my stamping tool, and the Hero Arts Green Apple, Forever Green, and Field Greens ink pads. And I will just ink some of those up, and again doing the double stamping with all but the Forever Green. That one stamped pretty well in that first one, so I didn't do a double stamp on that one. So when I finished with that, I go ahead and wipe off my stamps and place them, a couple of them around again to get a few more leaf images. And here I'm using those coordinating dies, and I will run that through my die cutting machine. And when I have finished with that, I will be using or taking all of these little die cuts and arranging them on here in a little cluster. And when I am happy with that, I will be using some Glad Press and Seal wrap to pick all of those up and make sure that they stay in place when I go to adhere them down. And I did use my Teflon bone folder to make sure that those were really stuck to that press and seal wrap. I didn't want them to move at all or have any issues not sticking. So then on that first layer I'm using some Helmar liquid adhesive, and those ones will be adhered flat onto my card base. So I will flip that over onto the card base and put that down, and then I gave it a few seconds to dry, and then I removed the press and seal wrap, picking up all the images that were not glued down. And then I'll start adding foam adhesive to the back of those to create some dimension. So on this first layer, and the second layer as well, I just use one layer of foam tape. So I'll remove that release paper and then pick up that piece of press and seal again and arrange it over those leaves that are already adhered down, making sure that I place it back where I want it. And then again I will pick that back up and then do another layer of foam adhesive on that leaf and then on this blue flower. Again, I just did a single layer on those two. And then for this next flower, the yellow one, I go ahead and use that foam tape and I double it over on itself to make it have a little bit more dimension and stand up over the other flowers. And then on this last flower, the purple one, I use that foam tape and fold it over 3 times on it. Well, fold it over so that it's 3 layers thick, and then adhere that down so that is the tallest standing flower. It just gives it some dimension and kind of puts it in the front and gives it kind of a cool look. So I'm using a stamp set from the Simon Says Stamp Showers and Flowers, the I Love You stamp in there. I will be heat embossing that on black cardstock. So I have a scrap piece of cardstock that I will place in my positioning tool, and then I will treat that with my antistatic powder bag. I will ink that up with my Versamark ink pad, and then I will use my white embossing powder and I will heat set that with my Wagner heat gun. And then here I'm just using a pair of small scissors and I will fussy cut around those words. I don't have a coordinating die for them, so I didn't like them in the little sentiment strip that I previously cut out, so I just fussy cut it out and liked that much better. I felt like it wasn't so bulky and fit a little bit better with the style of the card. And I ended up not using this eye here, but I cut it out anyway because I thought that I might use it. And then when I have finished with that, I will use my foam tape and put some of that on the back of each of these words. I had to cut it in half here because the words were a little bit more narrow. And I remove that release paper and I will use my EK Tools tweezers to place those down where I want them on the card. And then when I have finished with that, I will be using some Stardust Stickles, and I will place that all over in the center of the flowers just to give it a little bit of shine and just some glitter. And that will finish my card for today. So here in a minute you'll be able to see all the dimension that I got from using that foam tape, and I love this card, but that's probably because I love flowers. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be back on Friday for day 10, the last day in my 2020 Valentine card series, and I will see you soon. Bye.